Good afternoon and welcome back for the final day of quarterfinals here at the College League of Legends Championship. I'm La Tigers. I'm joined once again by Raz, and for the first time on the desk, we've got Dylan. Dylan, you have been along this tournament journey since the very beginning. How does it feel to be here in the final moments?
Oh, it's so exciting. I mean, I was here for the round of 32, the round of 16. Before that, I was playing in it. So it's a lot of fun to see everything come full circle.
Everything has been ramping up to this very moment. And I think everyone has a lot to look forward to because on the first day of this week, we started and ended with a bang. I mean, Raz, you were there. I think it's very fair to say that Bethany Lutheran and Maryville University put up statement series.
They did. I was a little sad because I was rooting for the Canadians and University of Toronto, but Bethany expectedly came in strong and stomped off the back of Bradley. I really, appreciated his play. I know it was a team play. Hollywood came in and he had some insane thresh hooks throughout. Bradley ended up taking the MVP of the series, and so they are the team to watch going forward.
Yeah, and I think it's so much fun that we get to see Bethany versus Maryville in the semifinals on the other side of the bracket because they're just such stylistic mismatches. We have Bethany, who are kind of this band of brothers, these friends that all play together, and then you've got Maryville, who are like the sort of mimic LCS organization.
Yeah, Maryville, as you said, like they're just insane. We've seen them in amateur events coming up until this tournament, and they've been stomping here, going up against Columbia. They gave them a lot of respect. Hearing the interview of Odd Orange after the series win, talking about that, they're experienced players across the board. They expected competition, but I didn't see it, mostly because Spyrax, the new player coming into the team, had such a damn good performance working alongside the support in jungle there. So a lot of love in that direction. Oh man, we get to see the footage of it too. Like Shady was insane this series, especially in game 1. Game 2 he was on the Tom Kench duty, but game 1 his thresh hooks were just magnets. And then in game 2 we got to see Spyrax on his Lee Sin going up against what was a surprise pick in the Nasus, but they just kited him out incredibly well. So overall, big wins for both teams, Bethany Vikings and Maryville.
Yeah, and Shady is just an absolute monster in the support role so far this tournament, and in Proving Grounds where he's also been playing. This guy's just insane. I mean, it's sad to see that he's, still working his way through the collegiate space trying to get a spot in a pro, but this guy is just making his case every single game that he plays.
While Maryville and Bethany Lutheran have very different identities as teams, I think both supports in Shady and Hollywood definitely put up some statement performances for both of those teams, earning them their spots in the future matches. But remember, everyone, after yesterday's action, we have officially whittled down our top 8 to our top 6 after Columbia College and the University of Toronto fell from our single elimination bracket. And only 2 of today's top teams will be moving on to join Bethany Lutheran and Maryville in Saturday's semifinals. So what do you say we get to know these teams a little bit better, shall we? When it comes to our 4 teams competing today, the first team vying for one of those spots is a titan of college esports, ISU Storm. They are the roster making a ruckus out east, and with aggressive bot plays and statement pentakills, they are a formidable foe for their opponents today. But facing them today are the monster rookies of the Midwest. We have Illinois State's Redbird Esports. And hey, despite being a newer name to the scene, the Redbirds have been rising to the top to find their spot here in the quarterfinal. But in our second series of the day, it's the South Superstars, the Winthrop Eagles, that have been making massive plays in the mid lane and making a huge name for themselves as a top team in the C-LOL scene. But they do have a tough opponent on the opposite side, and Buffalo Esports, another new kid on the block, eager to take down the legends of years past and write their own name in the history books. A lot of history to be made here today, but before we get to putting any new pages in the books, I do want to take a moment to remember the roads for these teams, kicking off with ISU Storm all the way here to our top 8.
Yeah, they went up against George Mason in the previous round, in the round of 16. Sandflame had some damn good Gnar ultimates, but it was really just around the mid jungle. like Amos and Shorter Ace, they work so damn well together. For people that don't know, that saw ISO's game yesterday, they are brothers, so that's a fun fact for this event. But yeah, I'm expecting between both Shorter Ace and Mike Amos to be working consistently together to take this win today.
Two players that we will be looking towards very directly. So why don't we go ahead and dive into that a bit more? I mean, Shorter Ace, fair to say, Dylan, that he's definitely one of the kings of the jungle when it comes to CLOL.
Yeah, Shorter Ace is a player that, given all of his experience in both professional play, overseas play in the Oceanic region, this guy is one of the most experienced and just best junglers that there is in collegiate. He is somebody that's been on multiple collegiate rosters where he's seen success. And, combined with the rest of his team, he is the standout player on Harrisburg. He is, up there with people like Orange in the jungle from Maryville. He is going to be the reason that Harrisburg has a chance in this series. He is the person that honestly carries the team. And in a meta like this, with all of these strong AP junglers, it's going to be really exciting to see what kind of picks he has up his sleeve for this top 8 match.
Yeah, and there's a reason he's been on the team since 2019. The team has, and the university has utmost faith in him. So it's nice to see that has worked consistently. I would already say just take the Sejuani out of the pick already. I understand you can play literally anything, but if I want to see, exactly, if I want to see success from this team, I expect to see him on carried junglers. Absolutely.
It is interesting to find that a lot of the junglers are actually some of the more veteran players on these teams too, and definitely affecting the way their teams play. But we already made note of some of these supports. I mean, yesterday we had Shady and Hollywood really stand out. So we got to look towards one of the supports that is playing here today. It is HU Storm's Clyde, looking to make a storm for himself.
Yeah, Clyde's a player much like Shorter Ace, where he's got this unique champion pool that not a lot of other college supports have. As we can see in his noted champions, he's got Pike. He has another champion in there that not a lot of people play, which is Gragas. He's very, very good at set support. These are champions that aren't really the traditional Nautilus, Leona, Thresh, things like that, and he can definitely play those. But he's got this added level of depth and flavor to him that not a lot of other collegiate supports have.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes with the motif of what he is, right? Because all those teams, all those champions underneath them kind of signifies engaging. He's just like, this team wants to have him as their primary engager, and it makes a lot of sense. If anyone watched yesterday's games, if Thresh is available, expect Clyde to be styling with the pick.
I'm looking for those really just crisp, clean engages today. But we know that we're already going to be seeing some heat brought from HU Storm, but looking to weather that storm on the opposite side, we've got Illinois with Redbird Esports. And I mean, despite them being a newer name here in CLOL, they've definitely stood strong against opponents in the past.
Yeah, Illinois has been a team that in the top 32 and top 16, they've come to play. They're new this year. Fall 2020, I believe, is their first year as a varsity program in general. But as you said, I mean, they have shown up to this tournament in a big way. They've dominated their opponents so far, and they're one of the few collegiate teams that's really made a presence in the amateur space as well. They've been playing in Proving Grounds and other just various online tournaments, and they've seen success there. So this is a roster that has experience playing together, and although they lost their jungler and War Machine Hyper, Gluten-Free Panda is no slouch, and that is somebody that's a very good replacement to get, and it's going to be exciting to see how they can play in this top 8 matchup.
And it's going to be easy for him to slot right into this team if you have Drew Dozer as your mid laner. Drew Dozer I think, is a fantastic mage player. He has Zoriana, I've seen him on like the Victor. These are things that I think he always meshes well with the current meta. And so if I'm expecting success from this team, I think Drew Dozer for sure is the player that, is who I see as the point of success. Now take Katarina out of there. I understand this is something he loves, but don't be fooled. It's not the only champion he can play. He's definitely, I think, one of the more flexible players on the team on what he can provide.
Half the players here using this as a chance to call out what their pools actually look like, Dylan, but it feels like the other half are using it to just shout out their favorite champions.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things, going off the champion pool thing is we're having such different mid laners in this matchup, right? We have Leica Moz, who's a veteran of the Harrisburg team. He's somebody that's been there for multiple years. I believe this is his final tournament with them. And then on the other side, you have Drew Dozer, who this is his first year playing at Illinois State, and he's just a newcomer to the collegiate scene and the amateur scene in general. And it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to take the win. You've got the veteran of the CLOL space, Leica Moz, and then you've got the newcomer to the scene, Drew Dozer.
And he's not the only personality that we have to highlight when it comes to this team. As you all mentioned, there are different faces that have been brought within this newer team to be coming to the scene. The ADC Disconnector is definitely eager to grab a kill or two or maybe 5 for himself at that point.
Yeah, Disconnector is something else in the bottom lane. This guy is just a kill machine. He plays things like Jinx and Samira, these champions that are so known for their pentakill potential. He has multiple pentakills on Twitch in the earlier portions of the collegiate season, and this is a guy that you need to keep your eye on if you're an Illinois State fan, because he is right up there with Drew Dozer as kind of that 1-2 threat, and expect to see him pick something of a hyper carry in the bottom lane. He's known for Kog'Maw, he's got a pocket Jinx and Samira. These are all champions that have such really insane carry potential.
Yeah, and man, I think he has personality too. Like the pentakills that he was able to get in the round of 16 and all that, and of course round 32 and all that, and then of course putting it on Twitter, making it very clear that he's excited to get more. So why not just feed him more pentakills? If he's hearing it, the team's gonna take a step back. And I want to see that personality on the Rift, off the Rift. I think it's really fun to watch, especially in an event like this.
If Disconnector is willing to dish out those pentakills, I think we're more than willing to eat them up. I'm all about that today. Before we get into the games, though, we do have a moment to get some predictions locked in. Dylan, you have been competing in the scene. You have been covering the scene. You'll have the first honors. Who is going to take this series between HU Storm and ISU?
I think the newcomers are going to do it. I'm giving it to them 2-1 in this series. I think it's going to be very close. These teams, both in terms of solo queue rating and in terms of their styles, they're very close to each other. So I could see it going either way. I think it'll be a 2-1 no matter what, but I think Illinois State's got what it takes.
Oh, snap. Giving it to the Redbirds. Okay. I actually have it as Harrisburg taking it. I actually think Harrisburg will win. I would even go as far as to say 2-0 only because I have a lot of faith in shorter race, Leica Moz. I think Leica Moz is kind of slept on. I know how good this team is, but at the very beginning, he has a flexible pool. I know that his last series, he did it with a Victor, but his Viego is damn good as well.
I thought as an Illinois State Redbird myself, I might be alone in the prediction game here, but Dylan's got my back. I'm hyped about it. Oh, yeah, you're outnumbered here, Raz. I'm ready to get into this game, though. We've got Kangas and Joshi here for the call. Fellas, take us away.
All right, thank you, Latigress. A non-biased desk for sure. You always love to see that. Welcome, everybody, as we're getting ready for pick and ban for our second round of the round of 8 here. I will be your play-by-play caster for the day. You can call me Kangas, joined by the always lovable Joshi. Joshi, we're doing some prep ahead of this, listening to an anthem of ourselves, and what we learned was God gave rock and roll to you, to me, and to everyone, but he gave these 4 teams a shot at making top 4 at CLOL 2021.
And we got one hell of a battle, as we already heard the analyst desk talk about. It's a bit of a split desk. Which of these teams is actually going to take it down? We saw some fantastic play coming out from both of these guys in the previous round, where Illinois State went up against Michigan State, and Michigan State tried to bring it to them in the early game, but this is a tougher opponent in Harrisburg University. Shorter Ace, the wonder kid of Washington, very close to my heart, has had a fantastic run through the professional scene, through the academy scene, and now going to take it to the university.
The general rule is the more rounds you make it through CLOL, the tougher the competition gets. The cream is rising to the top here, Joshi. So everything we saw in round of 16, we saw a lot of stomps, right? A lot of quick 2-0s, and even yesterday we saw 2-0s. But I think that today we got a couple of close series ahead of us. You already mentioned the bot lane focus here from Illinois State Redbirds. That's how they won their games against Michigan State last time around. But Harrisburg, this is a whole new beast. They got to go up against Hopeful and Clyde in the bot lane now, and let's see how they want to do it. We're already into pick and bans here. Already Varus taken off the table, Gwen taken off the table from Harrisburg, but focus on junglers, Nocturne and Viego taken off from the side of the Redbirds.
Yeah, this is a much more standard draft than some of the things we were seeing in the round of 16. I know, referring back to the Michigan State series that we saw up against Redbird, there was a lot of enchanters taken off the table. The Lulu, the Karma, as well as things like the Soraka and Sona were just kind of removed from the table. And part of that is just because Drew Dozer, Raz already touched on the mages that he likes to play, but realistically, anything with some priority, anything with some utility is definitely in this guy's wheelhouse. And lots of those characters are still up.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw him play the Karma. We expect the Seraphine to be that high priority as well, and they were even willing to first pick that Karma too. So Harrisburg University on the blue side, though, they get the first pick, hovering the Thresh. I do like this for Clyde. It's very good in the meta, and it is locked in.
It's a little bit surprising, right? It's definitely a contested pick, but it does leave up what a lot of people believe to be the best jungler on the patch, Rumble, which is something that feels a little bit more GFP than Shorter Ace to me, and in fact, they are going to be grabbing it for themselves. But Shorter Ace, known for things like the Lilia, like the Nidalee, these diving AP characters, I wouldn't be surprised to see if he wanted to pick something up like that rather soon.
So they get the Rumble, but the Gangplank also locked in. This is interesting to me, blind picking your top laner this quickly, this early into the draft phase, but in a lot of trust into ShamWow as able to play this, pilot this champion. And it can be blind picked. We have seen that before. There's not too many things that hard shut it down in lane, but the answer here from Harrisburg, that Jinx locked in, taking it away from Disconnector.
Yeah, this is looking exactly like something a Disconnector or Nosko would typically play, and Hopeful and Clyde trying to put them on something a little bit less comfortable. I want to go back a bit to the Gangplank here coming out from ShamWow. Not only is this one of his most played champions throughout solo queue, throughout the entire collegiate series, but it is such a powerful pick. There's not a lot of things that can contest it early on in the game with the power of the parlay. You just press Q on somebody, get some health back, do some damage to them. You're going to have a good time, but the Lee Sin coming out, we actually have no idea where this is going. Sandflame, Shorter Ace, and Like a Moss can all play it.
Yeah, they can flex this any which way they choose to, but the answer here from Redbird Esports, locking in that Nautilus, so trying to go toe-to-toe a little bit with this Thresh Jinx, right? You know, this is a support that can put some pressure out on the bot side.
Yeah. And I'm really liking when we take stock of how these drafts are actually taking shape before we get to the second round of bans, right? Because both these teams are rather flexible. They aren't committing super hard to one style or another. The Lee Sin can be used to peel, it can be used to engage, and similar thing with the Thresh. Obviously, you have to protect the Jinx to some degree, but you can protect her by creating too many other threats. Whereas on Redbird, we see kind of a similar thing. They're a little bit shorter range. Overall, both the Gangplank and Rumble are operating at a middle range, which can struggle to deal with things like the Jinx if there is a strong front line that they have to get through. But they aren't super committed to super heavy dive. This Nautilus can also be used as a strong disengage tool. So neither team is really showing a whole lot early on, and this is something that has really become the norm as we start getting towards the round of 8.
The big thing I'm noticing right now, Joshi, is that this should be a different Redbirds than we saw in the round of 16, right? They don't get the Jinx, first of all, which they played in both of those games, and they played that with the Thresh. They were getting multiple 2v2 kills on that bottom half of the map, and Gluten Free Panda was on a jungler that was ganking a lot, right? Had a lot of high priority in the early game. This time around, obviously they don't get the Jinx and the Thresh, so they're going to have a different look, and also Gluten Free Panda. This is, I believe, will be our first time seeing him on the Rumble, at least since round of 16, so I like it. We get to see adaptation. We get to see what Redbirds look like when they don't have their comfort. But let's catch up on the rest of the bans here. Redbirds take away the Akali and the Renekton, so more focus on those solo lanes. Over on the side of Harrisburg, they take away the Kai'Sa and the Yone.
Yeah, Yone being one of these things that's been perennially banned against Drew Dozer. We haven't seen him play it in so long simply because it's always banned against him. Nobody ever wants to see him on it, so it's one of those things that you just know you have to keep away from him. But the Ezreal coming through, got a couple of interesting builds on this character now. I know Arrow's been a big fan of the Stride Breaker recently, so we'll see if that's going to be coming through. But yet again, a couple more champs that are super in Harrisburg's wheelhouse. Victor, a bit of a denial pick away from Drew Dozer, but also just as strong in its own right. And Shorter Ace opting to bring out the Xin Zhao. We've seen this a couple of times throughout the CLOL top 32, and we'll see if he can have the same kind of early game impact as he's shown us previously.
They played this to great success against George Mason University, so kind of a throwback here to a composition that already worked for them. They paired it with the Victor as well. Very strong jungle mid combo. Once that Victor's able to push out, can actually roam, help out the Xin Zhao, but also can provide some pressure early. But the lock in here from Redbirds, locking in that Corki, so more defensive, scaling to the mid lane.
Yeah, this is very interesting coming in from Drew Dozer. We typically think of him as, again, someone with priority, but also somebody who doesn't die to ganks. He was able to play so far forward up against a lot of his round of 16 and round of 32 opponents, but now with the Xin Zhao coming through, a very heavy ganker that can pretty easily get onto the Corki, he's got a new challenge ahead of him, and Redbird have definitely committed to having a really strong long-range backline between the Corki, the Ezreal, and the Gangplank. So they're going to have to really make sure they can control this space in order to make sure that the Xin Zhao and Lee Sin can't get in and do their damage.
Completely different look for the Redbirds here compared to what we saw in their round of 16. So how does that change their game plan? How does that change their carry potential? Because it was Disconnector. He said, Joshi, he was going to go for a pentakill here. He's trying to find one. I don't know if Ezreal's necessarily... I mean, we've seen pentakills on Ezreal.
We've seen pentakills on Ezreal.
Crazy pop-off that the Jinx will give us, right? But there is a chance. But on the side of Harrisburg, they do have comfort. They do have things that we've seen them play before. Let's see if it works for them as we're loaded onto Summoner's Rift for Game 1 of our round of 8 best-of-3 series. Winner goes on to the semifinals and can continue the run to the championship title. Losers going home.
All right, so something that I'm already seeing, King, is as we are loading in and running through. Well, first off, Hopeful does need to be careful. Clyde is nearby.
Be careful. We saw Nasco do this before on the Thresh, actually, level 1.
Oh,
flash for the hook. He doesn't even need a flash. He just lands it onto Hopeful. Just some trade, some early game harassment here. I think Hopeful, yeah, should be able to back and heal up.
Yeah, I almost wish Nasco had hit the ward one more time so I can get the bonus experience, but not going to matter that much as we see these weird little scuffles across the map. As we get closer and closer to the minute 30, you have less and less time to try and back away. But luckily, junglers tend to be relatively healthy this season, so Short Race doesn't need to back if he doesn't want to. But I wanted to draw attention to was the fact that all of the lanes from Harrisburg University are going to be having the option to create priority in the first couple of waves, and so Short Race is going to be very enabled. Corki does no damage, levels 1 through 3. Gangplank has a very strong level 1, but doesn't necessarily have a lot of control over the wave up against things like Lee Sin's E. And in the bottom lane, Hopeful can just use a couple of rockets on the wave in order to get a push. So they have a lot of options, and Short Race has all the tempo he needs in order to try and determine how this early game is going to go.
And then you contrast that with the clear speed that a Rumble gives. I feel like this is going to be gluten-free Panda saying, okay, I got to watch for Short Races and Vades, contesting those scuttles, but I can just power farm and try and clear faster and maybe go for it. But there's the engage on the bottom side. Clyde's taking some damage, Hopeful as well. They're trying to trade back and forth. The damage, Clyde's taking a lot, though. This might just be first blood. Nasca, he'll use Disconnector. First blood to Disconnector. Not a Penta yet, but a great start.
That was a level 1 fight, Kangas. When do you see that? This is not something you ever do in almost any game. Yeah, I know Ezreal's getting a little bit of love on the past couple of patches, but some of them are in 11-11. This hasn't gone live yet. This is the power of the Disconnector that has carried this team so far, and I can't believe it started this early.
You're talking about Disconnector. I'm looking at Nausicaa. The engage, the willingness to just press that go button.
Yeah, I mean, he just goes in. They both flash forward for this play. The question is going to be, are they going to be able to control the wave? Getting this early gold is nice, but if you lose out on control of the wave because of it, you can actually get put in a rut really hard. And luckily for ISU Redbirds, this is going to be pushing back towards them, so they can choose to freeze, and with the kill advantage that they got, next time they come back, they can try and zone off Hopeful and Clyde extremely effectively. I like this so much.
I love it. Disconnector and Asuka did use flash, but then you look at where the junglers are pathing. Short Race path to the top side. So they actually aren't in that much danger on the bottom half of the map. I don't know how well of a job they've done of watching him, as Drew Dozer does take a pretty rough trade against Lycamaw's mid lane, and they should spot him out on
look at Short Race
now. He's looking for the gank mid. Short Race is wrapping around. I feel like they should have seen it. Yeah. Drew Dozer had that ward right there, so I believe they saw him pathing, so good on Drew Dozer backing off. Now Short Race, he loses the scuttle bot side, and he's wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, this is big. We already touched on the fact that on the Xin Zhao, he has the tools to make an impact, but unfortunately, he's getting out-rotated a little bit. He didn't take the top side scuttle crab. Now he's making the long trek from the top side of the map all the way to the bottom. This is interesting. This wave is pushed in pretty far.
Look at how much he's losing if you don't pull this off. Okay, he's backing off. Hopeful and Clyde push the wave in. This is really rough. He's going to get double scuttled right now. Although, to be fair, GFB doesn't know that the top scuttle's been taken. Maybe he just assumes that Short Race took that before roaming to the bottom side. But it will be checked here by Drew Dozer. Yeah, they get that ward down. They should see that scuttle, and Gluten Free Panda should realize I'm very far ahead of Short Race in the clear right now.
That's pretty surprising, right? I'm looking at this ISU, and for the past couple of series that we've watched them, we've really looked at them as this late game powerhouse, right? You have the Jinx with a lot of support behind it in order to make sure it will be safe later on in the game, but this time they're able to play in a lot of this mid game. They have the Ezreal, they have the Corki, who both spike really hard. One item, Sandflame just goes in.
Yeah, he used the Q already. Okay, he is able to get out though. Ward spots out GFP, so Gluten Free Panda will have to go back to the clear, but yeah, notices, hey, wait, there's a scuttle here. All right, I'll just take this double scuttle. Great early jungling here from the side of the Rumble player. And yeah, this is what you wanted. You highlighted right at level 1, Joshi, you know, Shorter Race having these lane pryos that he can play around, try and get aggressive, but has not found anything so far.
Not at all. And as we see the resets coming through, it's interesting to know where teams are trying to build a little bit of priority, where they're actually still playing to. And Shorter Race, again, opting to give up his Wolves in order to see if he can make a play top lane.
I guess they try and shove this in. This is second, I guess, kind of quasi-gank attempt from Shorter Race, right? But both times he's gone to a lane that's already shoving in and not finding much more done there. GFP will just happily keep farming it out, keep this level lead rolling right now. At least this is a push. Sandflame can get a little more deep vision down. But yeah, Harrisburg have not accomplished that much in the early game right now. They do have the Jinx, they have the Victor, they have scaling, right? Like, this isn't a composition that needs to find things early on, but still rough that they find themselves down essentially 1,000 gold at 5 minutes as ShamWow and Sandflame just trading a little bit with each other.
Oh, they just go.
Death Sentence in. Noska, ooh, just barely doesn't get flayed into that Flame Chopper. But okay, look at topside. They're really duking it out now. ShamWow and Sandflame just, you know, checking each other, saying, okay, who wins these? The Sheen or the Pickaxe? And now it's level 6 on Sandflame, though. He could look for this dive. Okay, no, not anymore. Not when ShamWow's level 6, you have to imagine. But he's still
no mana.
Aggressively. ShamWow is giving a lot of respect to Sandflame and will lose out on a full wave.
Yeah, all right, but he still ends up being relatively even. Losing this next wave is the big thing, but it seems to me like ISU are in a pretty comfortable position. This is one of the teams that has done quite well in Proving Grounds, right? The place where all the amateur teams and some of the academy teams are participating in, and they did rather well there. So my question here is, are they going to be able to convert this into a larger lead? We're seeing a lot of aggression coming out from Noska and Disconnector against Hopeful and Clyde, but we haven't necessarily seen a whole lot of support for them. But now, Drew Dozer's going to have access to his package relatively soon. GFP is going to have that equalizer, and they can start looking to make some big plays down in the bottom side relatively soon. But Shorter Race, third potential gank attempt. Do they find anything?
They have the
nice.
There we go, Flay used. Nausicaa flashes away. I don't think they can get him. There's the knockup. Another Death Sentence. They actually do lock down Nausicaa, and that will be a kill to Hopeful. Harrisburg strike bot side, but it's traded. Disconnector with the help of ShamWow. Cannon Barrage comes down, and it's a trade for the supports.
Yeah, Nausicaa, you see now his flash came up, but it was not up at the beginning of that fight. Beautiful timing coming through from Harrisburg University to actually lock it down to such a narrow degree. And Disconnector, he might be able to actually take this if he dings level 6.
Maybe. He is taking a lot from this Jinx. There's the Super Mega Death Rocket, the zap. Hopeful, a Flash Rocket Auto might have actually gotten that. Doesn't go for it, doesn't want to commit to a Flash under turret, but we're taking a look at who's the better Jinx player in this matchup.
Oh, that's for sure. Well, it turns out one of them's playing Jinx, the other one does have the Ezreal, but as we take a look at this one more time, I actually am curious when Nausicaa's flash comes up during this entire sequence, because he's looking like he might want to consider turning around, and it's here that it comes back up, right? So tragic at that point. He's fully crowd controlled, and Disconnector are doing a good job to actually find a counter kill in that entire sequence. But this game, I mean, it is relatively even. Both these teams are going to be rather happy with their position. So the question is going to be who's going to have this mid game, who's going to rotate people faster, because that was a deciding factor in both of these teams' round of 16 series.
Seems like that's Harrisburg rotating Clyde up to the top side of the map. Looking maybe at this Rift Herald. Hopeful did commit all the way to the bot side. Disconnector will as well. And honestly, neither team committing to it. So they just wanted to check if each other were doing it. Send some players up there in case there was an attempt so that you can actually contest. But both supports now going back to the bottom half of the map now. So no focus on that Rift Herald yet. Still, though, well done from ShamWow on that earlier play, saving that Cannon Barrage. I was wondering if he would use it to try and clear that top wave, but because he kept that alive and they had that cross-map play, they can pull that off. And that's something that Harrisburg need to keep in mind now if they are going for these plays, because that's the second time we've seen Shorter Race come to the bot side of the map. But with Gangplank, you're never quite in a straight-up 3v2.
Oh, that's for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to be playing the rest of this as we see these hooks and hooks.
Another double hook, but here comes Gluten-Free Panda. Has ultimate. Equalizer will not go down yet. Just going to help shove in this wave. Man, the Nautilus versus Thresh matchup with Clyde versus Nausicaa. These two are playing these about as aggressive as you can. Now Sandflame taking a lot of damage.
Oh, Shorter Ace is here.
Flash kick ShamWow. Flashes over the wall, but Shorter Ace follows. Multiple flashes used. Everybody's committing it for this kill. ShamWow still alive, but
can he
for
dodge?
how long? Sandflame might not want to tank this one up, but he will. There we go. Easy pickup for Harrisburg.
Yeah, this is a big spot here for ShamWow. The True Shot Barrage not coming through, but Sandflame and Shorter Ace, we're finally starting to see this guy come alive across the map. 2 assists now, but it might get traded. Watch the fact that we have a lot of people here. They're trying to push people off of the wave once again, and everything in League of Legends comes at a cost. You send your jungler topside, that means he's not available on the opposite side of the map, but because Gluten-Free Panda is all the way down here, Shorter Ace knows he's free to actually start picking up this Rift Hall, and we see our second neutral objective of the game going over to Harrisburg University.
Yeah, Gluten-Free Panda wanted to find that dive, but they didn't quite have the push on the wave, so they don't commit to it. He backs off and just goes back to farming the jungle, which is doing great for him so far, right? I mean, look at the camp clear speed between Gluten-Free Panda and Shorter Ace, but you highlighted it. Shorter Ace did pick up that Rift Herald, so now the question becomes, how much does Shorter Ace get for this? You invested time top lane, you got a kill. Congratulations. You get the objective, more congratulations, but what comes next? How much gold do you get from that?
Well, I think we're going to find out pretty soon here. 50 seconds left on the Dragon timer, or the team fight timer, as I like to call it, because we know both these teams are going to be itching for a fight. Look at the number of team fight ultimates that both of them have available. You're going to have the Chaos Storm and the Super Mega Death Rocket as major damage sources coming out for Harrisburg. On the other side, the package might be ready by then. Now, I haven't seen Drew Dozer actually use it just quite yet, but the Equalizer has been super quiet so far. This game will be ready for this in only 20 seconds. Both top laners have teleport, and both teams are potentially looking to fight over this dragon.
It is tough to play with that Equalizer specifically into Thresh, though. That Lantern can really help a team position away from where that ultimate goes down. So it's all going to come down to execution. Same with the package, honestly. They can make the X, right? The elongated red carpet with these two picks. And there we go. Package is picked up by Drew Dozer. So Illinois State Redbirds theoretically right into this play. They just commit to it in the mid lane. Like a Muzz gets absolutely deleted. And that should earn an objective for the Redbirds.
Yo, they just roasted that guy alive. He just disappeared between the Equalizer and the package. There's not a lot they could do, but those are 2 big ultimates that they just committed. And look at the fact, Disconnector is not with his team.
Oh, wait, I think Harrisburg might actually contest this. They think they catch our Gluten-Free Panda. He takes a lot of burst damage off the front and will go down. Well done by Harrisburg to turn that around. The kill to jungler, but the fight is still going. Clyde taking damage from Disconnector, but look at Shorter Ace getting onto Drew Dozer. Drew Dozer goes down. A double kill to Shorter Ace. ShamWow has teleported in, so he's looking at the dragon. He does secure for the team. It goes over to the Redbirds, and now the jungler's down. Shorter Ace has fallen like a boss. Teleports back in after dying. Meanwhile, Nausicaa goes down. The Redbirds in full retreat. Like a boss flashing forward. Says, hey, that wasn't too nice what you did to me mid lane. How do you like it? Now ShamWow under turret all alone. Hey, we've seen this one before. Like a boss gets a double kill.
Man, back and forth and back and forth. These two teams are here to fight, Kingus. And at the end of the day, all 5 members of the Redbirds end up falling. They committed so hard in order to pick up Like a Moss, but they didn't necessarily do everything necessary to actually convert that advantage. We're going to rewatch this probably entire play, because look at the fact Disconnector's not with his team. Nausicaa's on the opposite side of the wall. Even though they get the kill in the mid lane, this is still a 3v2, and it's really hard to play that. But then the split focus once again. Do you turn on Disconnector? Do you turn on Hopeful? Who is the actual priority target here? Hopeful's able to leave and flash over the wall, but then there's this weird battle over the Ocean Dragon at the same time, and you have a fight on the other side, and both these teams, we praised both Harrisburg and ISU for their ability to coordinate extremely well, be on the same page during these fights, but this is such a chaotic situation, and we see Harrisburg just coming out with a small advantage at the end of the day.
It all comes down to, yeah, like you said, Joshi, target selection. Who's making that call in the fight? Focus Jinx, focus the Xin Zhao. What's the plan? I mean, they at least get the dragon, you can say that, but it might not be over. Never mind. Rift Herald's dropped mid lane. Nausicaa does get hooked, but they don't hard commit. It's only the Victor and the Thresh, so whew, chaotic fight. You said it, man.
Oh, he just went in
for that team fight, but now Disconnector. Clyde's very far forward. A teleport flank is coming in, but already Clyde's out of the fight. Equalizer goes down to cut off the path for Like a Moz. But here's Sandflame on the Lee Sin saying, where's the red carpet for me? I guess I'll just walk through the river instead. Picks up a couple kills for the team. Harrisburg fighting back.
Yeah, the big thing that I really like to see there is an interaction we didn't touch on. Part of the reason why Xin Zhao is so playable into Rumble, we got to see right there. The equalizer does no damage to this guy unless Rumble is also on top of him, and because of that, Short Race survives way longer than you would otherwise expect this Bruiser to survive, and is going to buy enough time for the rest of the team to find a kill.
Really well played. Harrisburg are playing these fights beautifully. I mean, you got to give them props right now. The teleport flank coming in from Sandflame is really what sealed the deal, but yeah, I'll take another look at this.
Yeah, I mean, you see, this is a big, what do you call it, a big theme during a lot of these teams' plays, during this top 8 in general. Now, as we see these teams, whoever has more men is going to have a better fight. If you have more champions in the spot, it's way easier to play it through. ISU was just down the gangplank through that, and Harrisburg right now with a lead are currently up about 3,000 gold, but they're down 2 dragons, so they have to convert this into picking up some of these objectives and not getting caught out on the opposite side of the map.
But on the flip side, you look at the Redbirds, they need to keep stacking these drags, right? Like, that's their win condition at this point into the game, because you got a Jinx and Victor that are scaling up on the enemy team. They can at least be happy, I mean, as happy as you can be to have a Fed Lee Sin and a Xin Zhao, but, you know, at least those are the champions that you can start to deal with, because they will slowly fall off as the late game comes in. But they're on a timer. They got to worry about Jinx and Victor as well, despite the fact that they have scaling options themselves. So how do they control the choke points? How do they control the vision around these dragons? It will be up in a minute and a half. So right now it seems like the game plan is just try and get some control of these side lanes, and then I expect to see them start grouping up.
We'll see how well that prediction actually pans out. You do have to take a little bit of time because Gangplank, Ezreal, Rumble, Corki, none of these are slouches in the skilling department themselves. They're going to want to be taking a lot of these fights later on, and I think we're going to have one hell of a brawly game when all is said and done. But as we kind of see the lanes flip-flop, we're seeing an extended laning phase, but just on the opposite side of the map. And this is interesting. We pointed out before the team fight timer in the top left, 55 seconds until Dragon 3 is available. And both the junglers on the top side of the map.
That was Nazca trying to force an engage. They thought, hey, if we can kill Hopeful or Clyde right here, then we can transition that into almost a guaranteed dragon, right? But they don't get it. Clyde and Hopeful do back off, even have double summoner spells, so low chance of that play working to begin with. But yeah, I mean, you said it yourself, it is surprising to see both junglers prioritizing the top half of the map, both bot laners rotating to the top half of the map. When this dragon's up in 25 seconds, I want to see them put some more priority, especially from the Redbird side. Group up GFP, group up Nausicaa, and get some vision control around this area, because this is probably your primary win condition right now.
Yeah, when we're seeing a lot of Harrisburg, they're moving together a little bit faster. Oh no, they find Disconnector.
Disconnector is alone in the jungle, has a flash over the wall, but Short Race just follows him to play mid lane. Maybe they can trade for Lycan Mods. Disconnector's just been given up on. They do trade at least.
Drew
picks up that one. He's taking damage himself, though. The Chaos Storm is enough, and Lycan Mods trades right back. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Harrisburg.
Hey, let's go, Shorter Ace. That's what we like to see. Following the Ezreal over the wall once, following him right on back, being patient with his abilities. That's why this guy has made such a name for himself. 4-1-5. And this means that Hopeful doesn't even need to come down to the Dragon. Mid turret getting picked up by Harrisburg. Top turret getting picked up by Harrisburg. And now they have enough people still on the map to pick up this Mountain Dragon as well and put a stop to the Redbird scaling.
That's multiple neutral objectives going to the side of Harrisburg. This is pretty much as good as you can have for an early game from them right now. I know Shorter Ace, we're taking a look at his earliest jungle clears, saying, okay, he was losing a little bit to Gluten Free Panda, but hey, he's pretty much caught up. He's still behind in the clear, but look at how much more impactful he's been on the map.
Yeah, we get to see this once again. I just have to take time to praise Shorter Ace here. He waits for Disconnector to jump over the wall, uses his own flash to follow him, and we see like this interesting fight once again. Notice that Shamo isn't here. There's no cannon barrage committed to this fight. I'm not sure what the communications were like there, but it looks like people weren't sure what was actually going on. And I think that's one of the things that I really want to see Illinois State take a step back in this game. And you know, I don't want to say this game's over yet because we still got a lot to play, but as we start looking towards the rest of the series, you know, this is one of the big things that we know that they can do a little bit better than this, and we hope that we can hold them to it.
Exactly, because in their round of 16 against Michigan State, that was their strength, right? We saw the Redbirds constantly out-team fighting, out-rotating, playing together as a team, and maybe it comes down to the draft, right? This is a very different-looking composition from the Redbirds than what we're expecting to see from them based on their round of 32, round of 16 performances. So I like this from Harrisburg, though. It's a really good look from draft phase up until now in the actual performance. Here's Sandflame getting aggressive in a 1v2, but I mean, when you're 3-0-1 on Lee Sin, you can go for these kinds of plays. You are so strong right now.
Takes a long time to kill Lee Sin with a Gore Drinker and most of his Hysterics completed. And you have a lot of auto attackers, right?
Oh, no. Nausicaa. He gets caught out, death sentence into the box. He tries to get away. Actually, might just make it out of here. Nope, never mind. There's no way. Short race has way too much lockdown. The rocket comes in from Hopeful. And when you can't even roam there in your own jungle, you know the map's not exactly in your favor right now.
Yeah, it ends up picking the wrong way to ends up taking the full rocket damage, and now it is really, really tough as you're losing control of your ability to even walk in your own jungle. Sandflame, okay, he does realize that he is on a ward, is going to have an opportunity to back away, but the Baron hasn't even spawned yet. The fact that you're already losing control of this top side of the jungle, if we ever have an opportunity to look at the vision, you'll notice that the blue side is lighting up this red quadrant of the jungle. It's very difficult for the Redbirds to walk in, and normally this is one of the things that we praise tank supports for and have asked why enchanters aren't a thing. Well, normally these tank supports can walk in and ward without the support of the rest of their team, but Nausicaa needs friends in order to even go towards his own Raptors.
That's why I've been saying Nausicaa, GFP, link up. You got to go together to actually go for these. You know, if they engage on Nautilus, that's probably best case scenario because Rumble, Corki, Ezreal, Gangplank, they all follow up from range. You highlighted that in the pick and ban, Yoshi, the range that the Redbirds can play with. But so far, we haven't really seen them take advantage of that, right? It's mostly been these really chaotic skirmishes where everyone's dogpiling on top of each other, as opposed to the Redbirds trying to go for this poke, grouping up and controlling the vision. But just as I say that, at least they're doing that now, right? We do see jungler and support, you know, linking up and trying to get vision around that Baron because they are kind of concerned. That's a Jinx. That's a Victor. They can actually take this Baron fairly fast, even though it's only 21 minutes in.
They can. But the other thing that we have to pay attention to, King, is the fact that both the Ezreal and the Corki are coming online in a really big way. The Essence Reaver is completed, and Drew Dozer just 12 stacks away on his tier from having the Muramana available, and both these champions well known for their 2-item power spikes. It obviously changed with the preseason, but it is still such a big part of these characters' kits, and it gets better from here for both of them. As long as Drew Dozer can get this back off, he should be a-okay. There should be another package ready for him as we start looking at this next dragon, dragon number 4, which will put ISU 1 away from the Mountain Soul and Harrisburg 2 away.
They push him up to the top side. He's trying to clear that one out right now. Dragon Soul might be the focus, but it was actually Harrisburg. I think they were trying to go for a cheeky play on that Baron. They even get Disconnector's ult just to use to spot out if they were actually on it or not. But yeah, when you push out the Corki, delay that package, now he's backed. Now he's looking for it. I don't believe he has it quite yet. He's waiting for it to spawn, it looks like. There we go, okay.
Oh, he's got it. Look at him zoom.
Maybe the Redbirds can actually look for something right now. You see everybody else posturing forward. Gangplank's, the ShamWows finally joined up, right? They are grouped as 5. They can look for this, but where's the poke? How are they going to start this one out? It's just
he just goes
really far forward, and the engage actually comes in from shorter. Ace Harrisburg say, we'll take your fight. All right, not the gluten-free panda. There's the cannon barrage from Gangplank, but it's a split fight yet again. This is what Harrisburg wants, but maybe Illinois State can actually turn it. No, they cannot. They lose 2 members. And Harrisburg just dancing around these fights beautifully, constantly outplaying the Redbirds. They will take 2 for 0 and set their sights on the next objectives.
This is the aggression we like to see from teams, King, is they just go. I wasn't looking for that engage like that. I don't think you were, and I know ISU definitely was. They grouped 5 men on top of Shorter Race, and it's going to result in this next Mountain Dragon going over to Harrisburg. I say a lot of the time, most of these dragons individually not going to be mattering as themselves, right? You don't care all that much about the stats that these give, but when you start stacking Mountain Dragons, this dragon on its own is insane. Already having 2 of them gives you 16% bonus armor and magic resist. That gives you a ton of extra resistances, a ton of effective health, and as they continue to stack these fights just get worse.
Shorter Race is going to be the biggest tank. Let's take another look at this replay, Joshi.
Yeah, you see him. I mean, again, they have to split up almost immediately, and Shorter Race still, he's only now starting to take damage, but Drew split off to one side, Disconnector went a different way, and when you have this long-range backline, you have to kite together. You have to know where you're trying to set up your choke points, where you're trying to set up your crossfires, and ISU, because they were taken by surprise, didn't have an idea on where they're going to be kiting.
The stopwatch is used from both teams. Everything used to try and win that fight there.
Oh!
Flash engage. Oh, Hopeful! With the fast fingers. Gale Force to safety. Doesn't even need to use a summoner spell. That's pretty big.
It really is, and we'll see how effectively they can actually use this coming up. It is still a cooldown that is going to be down for a little while, and now we see teams starting to jockey a little bit for wave control, but the thing is, I feel like I've seen... Oh,
they're going for a flank. They want to get onto Disconnector. He no longer has his E. Oh, easy execution from Sandflame. Beautiful flank. And then nets Harrisburg another kill.
This should be the Baron as well. You see everybody moving over. You can try and contest. You got Corky Poke, you got Poke coming out from the gangplank as well, but even just walking up to Clyde and Shorter Race in this environment is so scary. We'll see what they can find, and they instantly find Nausicaa.
They can't. They literally cannot walk forward. Nausicaa just gets chunked immediately. Still alive, surprisingly, but will go down now. Sandflame jumps in. Good equalizer to try and buy some space for ISU, but it's not enough. There's still the Victor range to deal with, and Jinx Rockets peppering the Redbirds. They lose another 2 members, and they just got to give up this Baron.
Yeah, the dichotomy of turn or burn coming out from Harrisburg, and they know exactly what they need to do. This is still a possible steal coming out from GFP, but the odds are dwindling every single second that he is zoned down. Are they just going to try and find Drew Dozer too?
I think they could look for it, honestly, but Drew Dozer in a 1v3, and actually doing a really good job cutting this out.
Drew?
It might just take down Clyde. Here comes Gluten Free Panda as well. It's actually Drew Dozer that goes down.
Disconnector?
And the Baron picked up by Harrisburg. Oh no, disaster for the Redbirds. I thought that was Drew Dozer's pop-off moment. He was kiting the damage, but still goes down. Objective to Harrisburg.
This is looking to be a little bit over at this point, King. Is what looked like a very even game. Just big props to Harrisburg for finding a moment where they can take their opponents by surprise, and then they're converting this, controlling chokes, knowing that they need to turn this, and recognizing they can walk through this. Equalizer doesn't cover the entire choke. Harrisburg University are on fire right now, picking up the last 2 dragons, picking up the Baron, 8,000 gold in the lead at 26 minutes. We still have to note that multiple members of their team haven't even died. Both Hopeful and Sandflame looking to have a perfect KDA in this first game.
Man, this is looking like one of those races where it was a slow-ish start, but man, Harrisburg, the longer it's gone on, the further they've pressed the pedal down. They are looking to speed run this mid to late game transition right now with the Baron picked up. They got lots of gold on their carries, and they're raring and ready to go. They're willing to take these fights left and right. And you love to see it from a team in the top 8 of Collegiate. They're looking like very strong chances of cinching this game out. It is a best-of-3 series. Keep that in mind. So Redbirds always have a chance to come back. But when you're Harrisburg, when you're a fan of this school, this organization that came into the scene roaring in 2019 with a disappointing finish and then not able to compete in 2020, you know, they were in the hyperbolic time chamber, Joshi. They were training for this.
The crazy thing is it's a thing where we look at Shorter Race and we thought his first couple minutes weren't the most impactful thing in the world, but he's shown up in a big way, and we weren't even sure if he was going to be on their starting roster today, right? They have 2 junglers that they can pick from, and everybody was saying that Zyle, the other jungler that you often see play for Harrisburg, really good at playing this more supportive style, really strong at playing a more standard game of League of Legends, but if you want to win a game off the back of a single person, it's gonna be off of Shorter Race, and I feel like he's really stepped up to that role, and he's got a whole nother series. This kid's got a bright future ahead of him.
Shorter Race as a player has been fantastic to track throughout his career, and I mean, keep in mind, this is still only top 8. He's got to have his eyes set much higher than this as well. They do still have semifinals if they win here, and a run potentially to that finals. But yeah, I mean, they're looking clean, they're looking good. How do Redbirds try and answer this is the question next on my mind. They're not out of it yet. We highlighted the scaling potential, right? They're 9K down in the hole, but if they can slow it down, potentially they can look to mount the comeback, especially with the composition that can find these picks. But They're actually on the wrong side of the map right now. They're kind of stuck in their lane looking for the engage on the shorter race, but he's so tanky. Even their pokes not fully landing on him.
He goes in, Drew!
Here, Drew just runs in, says, I'll do it myself, but gets blown up in the process. Can they find anybody else to engage? Redone on a shorter race, but here comes Sandflame on the flank. It's disaster yet again for the Redbirds as Harrisburg University cannot be routed. They say, all right, we'll just follow our waves that are already pushing mid, already pushing top, and take the fight regardless. They take the top.
No.
Sure, they want more. ShamWow in trouble here, gets hooked over the wall. Harrisburg University with a dominant performance right now. Joshi, they could potentially look to end the game.
They should. There's no ultimates available for anybody on ISU. They're bringing in Sandflame. He can teleport exactly doing that right now. Yep. I don't know how Rumble and Ezreal are supposed to try and defend this unless Disconnector can get one of these pentakills that he's trying to get.
He's looking for it, but he gets engaged on and blown up. It's just gluten-free Panda, and there's not much a Rumble without ultimate can do in this situation. Nexus is focused. Harrisburg University will make a decisive blow in game 1 of this best of 3.
Look, I'm sorry, Dylan. I'm sorry, Tigers, but your team's currently fallen down 0-1 in the series so far. You're going to have to do something to cheer up these guys because that was a dominant performance coming out from the Harrisburg Storm, and they really taken this entire stage by storm. Looking so good. I can't wait to see what they're going to be doing next time because this is something that looked very prepared. They knew exactly what they were doing, and now they're going to have to try and adapt to the responses that Illinois State are going to be bringing.
I loved what they did coming into this game 1. We were doing a lot of prep for what do we think the Redbirds will want to prioritize in draft. We knew Jinx and Thresh would be on their top priority. So just take it away from them. I love to see this from Harrisburg University. They clearly did their homework as well and came in with a very clear game plan. And yeah, now we've seen what the Redbirds look like with a very different compositional identity. And I'm not going to lie, they didn't look comfortable playing that, right? We highlighted some of those plays where their shot calling, their target prioritization was a little off. They had avenues where they could have actually fought and maintained a lead in that game, but Harrisburg University were just better.
I want to give some shout outs off of that as well, looking at Harrisburg, because when we looked at this, we were kind of looking at Clyde, Moss, and Shorter as some of our big players, but this is a time where Hopeful and, oh my gosh, top lane, I just lost it.
Sandflame.
They had such big moments through that entire thing. The Lee Sin looked so good, finding some of these big flanks, going for these dives, making sure that he was able to be in the right place to actually be some of the limited engage that this team really had. And Hopeful stayed alive, like really starting to threaten Disconnector as potentially the best Jinx between the pair.
I love it that he didn't even have to like hard carry. Like we've seen Disconnector hard carry on the Jinx. Hopeful's like, no, I'm just going to take it away from you. And then my top half of the map will absolutely pop off. But man, the storm is brewing, everybody. Harrisburg find themselves up 1-0 in the series. 1 game away from going to the semifinals. Let's see if the Redbirds can bring us to a game 3 or not. We're going to send it to a short break before the Safe Farm Analyst breaks down game 1. So don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the 2021 College League of Legends Championship. HU Storm putting up some good numbers here in game number 1-0 in the best of 3 series thus far against Illinois State's Redbird Esports. And Joshi called it out a little bit. You know, we had some ISU favorite predictions on this desk.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Name the names, all right? Name the names. It's not this box. It's not this box. It's not this.
I said 2-1. I said 2-1.
That's true, actually. You did.
Yeah. I'm
Back
just vying for our first series to go to game 3. I mean, we had 2-0s yesterday, but I do want to talk about some of the great things we saw from HU Storm, though, because they definitely put their best foot forward. And Dylan, I feel like the team fight especially is where we really started to see some of the strides that have put them as one of the top teams here today.
Yeah, I mean, Raz was hyping them up on the pregame, saying that Harrisburg is one of the best team fighters. They're right up there with Maryville and other teams like that, but we saw them just again and again and again at these dragon fights every 5 minutes like clockwork. They were just taking the victory, and even though they lost a couple of the first few dragons, they were still getting that gold lead, right? And in this replay, we see that it actually turns into a really hectic skirmish where GFP goes down. Shorter Ace doesn't have smite, so he's probably communicating to his team, we have to turn, we can't finish dragon. And it comes down to just whoever can get the dragon. ShamWow, I think, gets it with an auto attack, and this hectic fight, but it leads to Harrisburg getting an ace pretty much. Not technically an ace, GFP spawns at the very end, but they secure the gold lead off this, and then they just use that to run away with the game.
Yeah, I think it's a big positive for Harrisburg because they recognized that their top laner wasn't going to be there faster than ShamWow was, so they actually played, you know, on the top side of the river where the Lee Sin was coming and just bought time. So I think ultimately being able to eviscerate the Rumble at the very beginning of the fight and then fighting towards where their members were coming from was just a great idea. So even though they ended up losing the first two dragons, my bad, the rest, they were able to come back through just recognizing how to fight well-coordinated fights as well.
This was a game where the Redbirds were definitely trying to establish some of that pressure down bot.
Yeah.
Raz, there are a lot of strength from HU side.
Yeah, a good thing that we noticed here, I know the mid lane team fight was happening at the same time, but this is the exact moment in which Ezreal was coming from the top lane to the mid lane. You know, he thought he had the presence from his team, he thought he had the connecting ward so he can safely path from the top side to the middle portion of it, but that was actually really well warded from Harrisburg. And I think one thing they're showing us in this series is that they can sit on their vision really well and punish when they take when they cheat through territory that's not theirs. It happened in this moment. It happened when Nautilus was walking into his red side jungle. There are many examples in which I think going into the next game, the Redbirds have to recognize we need to work together as a team to get our vision back. Or we need to kind of emulate what Harrisburg is doing when we have our vision placed around objectives to sit on it and wait for members to make mistakes, or if they don't, take the camps that are right in front of us.
Yeah, and you love to see it from Harrisburg because they needed to do that with this composition. When you have Xin Zhao, Lee Sin, Thresh, these are champions that in front-to-back team fights can struggle a little bit because they don't really have amazing engage tools, but when you have them just posted up in the jungle, they can easily use like vision manipulation to find engages that they otherwise can't.
Yeah, I think this game-ending team fight was a great example of that too, because it started with Disconnector dying from a Lee Sin kick from the bot side, and when they did that, remember, vision at that moment in time was in favor of Harrisburg, went straight towards Baron, placed down wards, waited for them to walk into it, got a great hook on towards Nautilus. This is just like good fundamental play that we see from Harrisburg that now the Redbirds have to fight back against.
Again, the teams that are succeeding in these series are the ones that are getting the fundamentals down, establishing that vision so they can make the plays happen where they need to happen. But as we've said, this is a best of, which means,
True.
Dylan, that ISU does have a chance to try and bring things back. There is a chance coming here. So if we are looking a bit forward, it looks like HU have selected blue side, if that is correct. But generally speaking, Dylan, what would you like to see from the side of maybe the Redbirds to bring things with a bit of a different flavor?
I would love to see the Redbirds play with a little bit more priority and playmaking tools because they had a good team composition from top to bottom in terms of what champions they're comfortable on, but they couldn't really do a lot with it. You know, Gangplank up in the top lane does not really get priority into Lee Sin past a certain point. Corki in the mid lane against Victor, it's pretty dependent on the jungle matchup, and Xin Zhao stronger than the Rumble in those early skirmishes. And then in the bottom lane, Ezreal's not really going to get priority in almost any lane. So you have a Rumble who theoretically wins the jungle matchup, but he can't actually get a CS lead because he can't really put pressure anywhere. And it felt bad because I want to see ISU play with a little bit more playmaking tools, early game priority, things like that.
Yeah, and when you're fighting into enemy team vision with that team composition, your only frontliner is the Nautilus. And so it's very easy to, if you have a lead in Harrisburg's side, to just snowball that. So I think we'll definitely see a different draft going into the next game. It's going to be interesting to see what Illinois State look for.
Now, perhaps a different draft to completely flip the strategy. There is a chance to keep this series going to a game number 3 because AHU Storm have taken the lead after that victory to push themselves to a potential match point going into game 2. We're going to take a quick break here, but on the other side, we will continue with all of the college action here with League of Legends. Don't miss it. See you there.
Hey, I didn't order any pizza.
Jake from State Farm. After you saved me so much dough on insurance with that Parker promo, I devised a promo for you.
Here's the deal, Parker. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Yeah, right. Pepperoni pockets, an atomic brownie, cuckoo crusty.
There's no promo, it's just great rates.
And a cider ranch. You're the man.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.